Well, after yesterday's snow, rain, freezing rain, and lots more snow, it's turned clear as we welcome you back to the Charlottetown Civic Centre. This 3-4 page playoff, Ontario against Nova Scotia. Time to meet the teams now, brought to you by Tim Hortons, celebrating 25 years of roll up the rim to win. They are from the Ottawa Curling Club. Ontario skipped by Rachel Homan with Lisa Weigel, Alison Kraviasik, and Emma Miskew. They come in with a record of 8-3. Nova Scotia, out of the Mayflower Curling Club in Halifax, skipped by Heather Smith-Dacey with Terry Lake, Bliss Comstock, and Danielle Parsons, rounding out the side after winning their tie-break against British Columbia and the two-time Canadian champion, Kelly Scott. Ontario, by virtue of their better record, had the choice of stones, and they also get the last rock, playing red. Nova Scotia playing yellow. And to get us going in this 3-4 page playoff, the Nova Scotia lead is Terry Lake.
Both of these teams learning over the course of the week, and for Nova Scotia, a huge positive when you look at that tie break, and we just saw Terry Lake's numbers at 85%. Every player in that range, the team at 84%, by far their best performance as a group.
A lot like Team Canada, you're peaking at the right time. They've been able to do it 4 years in a row, but an impressive game yesterday for Nova Scotia.
If you were with us last night, we mentioned Tammy Schneider and her injuries to a elbow and knee. Lisa Weigel has also been battling injury this week.
Up a bit. Get off. Let's control up. Oh, we're good. Yep.
Rachel Homan and Ontario are normally a fairly aggressive team, but unlike Jennifer Jones, they are not predictable in the first end. They sometimes will play it open, and I think Rachel may be having a good choice here, considering this is their playoff game, and the rest of the team may have some nerves, and this gives them a little chance to settle down, get the first rock underway, and not be too complicated.
And the other thing is, too, Russ, they had the entire day off yesterday. They threw stones, but they had yesterday off.
And that is tough, especially for a young team. Yes, they've been through it at the junior ranks, all the way to the world final, but this is different. You have the whole day off to think. You watch the other team, and the unfortunate part, too, is when you watch that other game, you end up watching the team that plays the best, in this case, Nova Scotia. So Ontario sits back and goes, uh-oh.
Control. This way, Wilco. Yep.
Well, I mentioned that Lisa Weigel is battling injury, and with more, here's Brian.
Hey, Vic, thank you very much. I talked with her coach, Andrea Rowenbach, and she basically tweaked that neck and that shoulder early on in the week. Had physio done on it basically every day since. Having that day off yesterday was certainly huge, but there's also that emotional component, thinking you've been so hard, worked so hard to get here, and then maybe can't play. Well, she's done everything she can, and she's obviously in the lineup. As for the rock selection, well, Team Ontario, because of the better record, they could pick whichever rocks they wanted. They chose all of the red rocks on sheet B, and Andrew, the coach, saying they're comfortable with those rocks. They had 2 victories with those rocks, and that's what they're going with today. Vic.
Control again? Yep.
It was interesting when we look back, Vic, because often Russ and I find people choose the stones based on comfort, but often you find each player comfortable with a different set from a different sheet. But the team, Ontario in this case, curled so well in those 2 victories, their 2 best numbers as a team. I guess that's why they stayed with them.
Exactly, and you have to be a little careful with that. It makes a lot of sense to take the ones you curled your best percentage game with, but sometimes those percentages are a little deceiving, as you would know, Linda. If you get up a couple early, you start to hit. You're playing a lot of hits, and you don't really distinguish the differences in the rocks with the draw weight.
Now, because they took them from B and put them on C, are they going to react differently?
I don't think so, Vic. All 4 sheets have been incredible here. The floor is level. There doesn't seem to be any hot spots. BJ Gagnon and his crew have done a wonderful job, and I doubt it. The sheet will be a little different possibly. And what we did notice in the game yesterday, that it was getting a little bit dished. There's quite a bit of movement outside in if you get wide enough. And you get in a little tighter, it's a little bit straighter. You're inside the hill, and we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Well, we noticed it last night, Linda, in the 1-2 page playoff game, in the last couple of stones thrown in the extra end, and the first from Jennifer Jones, and then the last rock come-around attempt by Amber Holland.
Amber Holland got caught on going wider to try and swoop into the button and could not get past a guard. Earlier in the game, it was a benefit, as we see that one go through, in that she had to draw the button. Amber Holland had to hit the button and could take the less ice and come more down the 4-foot path and not worry about guard. So it has its pluses, but definitely at the end of the game, it had its minus.
Have a look. Mine's good.
Often it's a signal to the coach as to how the misses are made. That one that went through, maybe a little signal that the Ontario team, in that case Allison, feeling a little nervous because that's the extra jump from the hack that you have if you got those nerves intact.
A little adrenaline flowing.
Emma's numbers are a little lower, but she did bring them up over the course of the week. Another piece of that learning we were talking about. In particular, her draws were very low at the start of the week, adjusting to the arena ice and stones. But she is marvelous in the house with Rachel, and that is a huge factor.
Nine and a half.
The one thing, looking at the numbers, pages and pages of numbers that we get from Brian Cassidy and the stats people here. The one thing that was a little surprising when we talk about hammer in the first end and its importance, because you now earn it by drawing to the button prior to the game. Last year, the team that had the hammer in the first end won 62% of the games over the course of the week, which is quite good, quite a factor. This year, it was only 48%. It seemed that the last rock advantage in the first end was negated over the next 9. So a little bit of a surprise, and you and I chatted, and we couldn't come up with one big solution for that.
Not really. It's it's a bit of an anomaly, really. The obviously, I think the only answer I can come up with is there's definitely more rocks in play with all the teams, a lot more aggressive play. The women's game's changed in the last 4 or 5 years, and with more rocks in play, that over a 10-end period, that advantage of first rock in the first end isn't that big.
Nine and a half. Okay.
Well, certainly she didn't expect to be skipping the team here. Heather Smith-Dacey, as we mentioned, Colleen Jones coming down with bacterial meningitis, and Heather Smith moving up to her third position.
9-ish.
And as we say, they have really battled to get this far.
I think one of the stories with Heather is her numbers are not at the top of the skips, but I think her management of the team, which is always very key when you have rookies coming to the table, and the timing of the big shots has been amazing. And a lot of it is to do with her coach.
And you're right, and you mentioned it earlier. He may be the unknown, the X factor, we can say, Canadian champion, Canadian mixed champion, along with his wife, Mark Dacey.
He's a student of the game. He really is. He played for Saskatchewan in a Brier, made it all the way to the final. Played a lot of tough teams in the Maritimes here for years, and as you mentioned, with Heather, did really well in the mix quite a few times. And I think one of the smartest skips out there, really do. Mark gets a lot out of his team when he won, and also when he came second at the Brier, and I think he's passed that along. And not like Heather didn't know what she was doing either, don't get me wrong. Very smart skip in her own right, and but to manage the young team, I think that's been the story this week.
It's a lot faster than it was in practice. Yeah, it's been really low time though.
The ice has keened up, and as I said, sometimes it's hard to just give it that gentle kick from the hack on your first to start a playoff game.
Was that an 8? 7-5. Okay.
could be a blessing here, though, Linda. It's, you know, the young nerves and the 2 misses aren't going to cost them on the scoreboard here. They were freebies, and now they know, and they should make that adjustment.
The final stone for Nova Scotia and Heather Smith-Dacey in a wide-open first end. It's the 3-4 page playoff.
I don't think it needs anything.
The winner will move into the semifinal this evening against Saskatchewan and Amber Holland. The loser will play for the bronze medal, and that will be tomorrow here in Charlottetown.
It's a good one, Heather.
The throw through by Rachel does give Heather a chance to throw a draw, which is a nice little benefit at this stage. And she too is a little bit strong, so she'll get a chance to get that feel early. Chance for a blank.
And we just want to remind you that tonight's semifinal, when I say tonight, it's because we've always been tonight, but it'll be this afternoon, actually, across the country. It's a late afternoon start, 5 o'clock local time, 4 in the east, 1 in the Pacific region.
You're good, clean.
And considering all the snow they're going to get in Vancouver, you may just want to stay in. That's just for you, Linda. We're in Charlottetown. You do notice the relationship, obviously, as husband and wife, but on the ice here between Heather Smith-Dacey and her husband acting as the coach for Nova Scotia.
Well, that is the benefit. The coaches are right behind the sheet, and they are permitted to talk to the players during the game. So although there's only 2 interventions where they get to come to the ice during an end to talk strategy, there is that calming influence there for every break between ends.
I think that's fabulous. I think that should be included in all the events. You can't do it in a curling club. You only have the 2 timeouts, and I think that's invaluable to a young rookie team like this.
First rock out in front, and here is our first look at an aggressive play by both teams, and a lovely come around by Lisa.
Shot. Full 4. Hit it.
There's a very vocal group of Ontario fans. I'm assuming that Rachel is used to it maybe from junior play, but it could be a little distracting if they're not careful.
Line's good, got room.
In the Page 1-2 game, Saskatchewan and Team Canada, once again, Jennifer Jones in the latter part of the game got the superior play around the center guard. It is something we talk about a lot. It is something we see a lot. And you have to be so careful if you have the hammer that you can get too trapped by this. You have to get the better angle. So there's a little mistake with that rock dropping short, which is a benefit for Ontario.
This great late finish with these aggressive rocks. It's actually 2 guards here, really, and a chance to bury another one.
It's coming back hard here, line-wise. I'll be the first. Let's wait. Where? 5. Line's great. Whoa. Whoa, easy. Looks like lots. 6. Whoa. Let's wait. Line's good. Line's great. Still all there. Okay. Can't tap. Tapping. Yeah, we're tapping right. Need to curl. Curl. It's T-line.
Little rub and roll off to sit 2, remembering now that Ontario does have the last rock here in the second.
I mean, if it curls up and you just get the nose, that's fine too. 9.
Ontario off to that wonderful start, won their first 5. And when we were doing that Ontario-Saskatchewan game that evening, we thought maybe that might be just for the 1-2 page playoff. Well, Saskatchewan went on to finish first. But look at how Ontario lost 3 of 4, but then regrouped to beat the team from Yellowknife and Quebec.
Really hard! Go! Right. Okay.
That went through the corner of that guard.
That was very close to rubbing the front and would have been a huge benefit for Ontario, but a lovely shot by Bliss.
Not a lot of room there. Oh.
Actually got right to the nose.
best teams in the world win games by making this shot right here. They throw it soft enough that they get the maximum amount of curl. Try to get to the inside.
Allison Kreviasek as we play second still.
Keep going. Yep.
This is plan B, but not a bad thing.
Whoa.
Well, again, it
Stick around.
comes back to something we were talking about earlier in the week, and the shooter will hold on, T-line, edge of the 12. Russ, if you're not going to get around, at least spill off the center to open things up.
It's a brilliant call. It just is, or I should say a brilliant miss, because the statistician's not going to reward them for that, but it's a smart miss. The red one's in the rings, the front's open. There's now a corner guard pushed over. It's a good situation for Ontario.
This one. Okay. Is there a hole? Or even a guard. Okay. I don't really like the guard. No. I don't mind tapping and rolling over. Well, there's lots of options. I mean, you could stay here with a tap. Or you could tap this to a freeze and roll off. I just don't want to set up a double, that's all. Does it look like there's a hole there to come here? For withdrawal? Yeah. Let's try that. Even if you tick this. Okay. Get another one in there. Yeah.
The yellow double's actually there if they wanted to take it on. It's a little dangerous, and they certainly don't want to burn too much time here, Linda.
No, that has been an issue with Nova Scotia. We've talked about Heather Smith and her great work with Mark Dacey, but they do take a lot of time to discuss these kinds of situations, whether or not it's with the coach or by themselves.
Gonna have to go soon. Yeah. Line's good. Room. Whoa.
I think they want to get another one in there just because that red one did roll in at the moment. Heather seems quite concerned of getting these rocks in a spot that red cannot count.
Okay, that's pretty good. Double. Okay.
Well, we showed you Ontario's good start. Well, one of the reasons was that early win. And an stumbling start, actually, before Nova Scotia regroups. When you look at who they lost to, when you lose to PEI eventually, I mean, they could have avoided the tiebreak altogether. But then they fell into that tie-breaking situation, did win it against British Columbia.
There's the little problem with playing it with only draw weight. Trying to draw in and nestle into the red meant they didn't tap either yellow far enough away from each other.
Great chance to sit 1-2-4. This is curling, though.
Hard for piece. Go. Yeah.
Getting everything off the 4-foot leaves Ontario sitting the 1, pulling the 8-foot tee line.
9.5.
Unforced error there. It's not doubles aren't always easy, but this was fairly easy. Anything on the high side, then you'd remove both yellows, stay for shot second and fourth. Now they're going to be looking at 3.
10. Yep. Whoa.
Danielle Parsons.
Clean. Yep. Clean. Yep. Hard. Right to it. Yep. Really hard. Go for the roll now. Whoa. Okay, sir. Okay. Board.
Would love to note that kept it away from the roll. This roll now becomes shorter, which makes it easier to roll behind either of the yellows. For that matter, all 3 of them.
Board
You
up.
notice that the broom is right on the rock, and Emma, in particular, Rachel, throw in out with that out turn, and so they look like they're giving no ice, even though the ice is relatively straight. It's still very tight ice. There you can see they don't get the roll just because of that release.
Emma miscue, side of the button.
And that release is planned. That's not a mistake, and they do it every time. But sometimes in those straight spots, it's hard to cross with that straight turn.
The type of granite they use for the inserts here is very, very straight. Once you up the weight a little bit, you can get the curl with an outward motion on a draw, but you can't on a hit. And absolutely, Linda, they're tracking on the Ontario team a little bit.
Yep. Whoa. 10. Whoa. How much? 10. Whoa. Close. Close. Yep. Whoa. Yep.
Can they get across the nose and get the jump? Yes, they did. Look at this. Oh, not quite. They'll leave a corner still peeking out.
Nice, Danielle.
That's the kind of shot they weren't making in the losses. That's the up and down kind of week they had, and the way they've come on so strongly in the last few games, especially yesterday, we saw a lot of that great shot making from Heather Smith-Dacey and her team. Leads the run back double.
Whoa!
Might be able to save the shooter off that outside corner guard, too.
Hard!
Emma Miskew running it back, picks it off, and will roll it out the back. Shot Stone, though, is still covered. And it's the shot Stone belonging to Nova Scotia in the 12-foot.
Covered because the Redstone rolls over, the shooter rolls over and taps the yellow guard, but still a very nice shot. The house is open now, and they're going over to hit this one, so that means Rachel will be looking at a nice open house with her shot.
That all started by the that wreck on the come around, tapped it open and opened up that front, and really no danger for Ontario to score a point as long as they can make the draw.
Yeah, we can even tap it depending on. I like the draw. Yeah.
Great lesson for those that curl, thinking ahead. Whatever Heather Smith-Dacey does on this wing, they're confident, leaving those two rocks in the rings, playing a draw around their own guard. You have to be thinking ahead. That saves a bit of time on that time clock.
We talked about it getting a little straighter inside out.
Okay.
It's too much ice.
Yeah. Track. It wasn't
Too much
on
ice,
the lot,
yeah.
Heather.
No?
No. Try and roll on.
Okay, because it's going to go into this one if it's heavy. Ice.
Even so, though, it won't be a hit for 3.
No. But it'll be on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess 80. And then if you tap nose, it's fine.
Nose is fine.
They'd like to
Make
tap
sure that
this
goes in first because our shooter's
straight
not going to be
back,
first shot.
but they realize that you have to throw more than draw weight with this turn, so by throwing it a little heavy, you can hit it on the high side, and they can have a bit of an angle and tap onto that yellow buried rock and still maintain a buried position. So it's a smart call to play this turn. You play the other turn, you overthrow it, you pump it out in the open.
9, eh?
Yeah, 9 to T.
Okay.
The option would be just to come around to make sure you got covered that way as well.
That's what I thought they were playing before Heather threw. That's what they were discussing, and you can make either one. This one probably a little more options.
I think we're only about a 5,
Rachel
6.
Homan and her first Ontario with
7. Whoa,
last
Daryl.
rock here in the second.
Gotta curl a lot. 7.
No, not even on it. 7.
Could be plan B. It's going to hit it on the high side. It'll curl enough to become shot rock is the key.
Pardon?
Pumps it in. Did it get there for shot? Pretty close. I don't think so.
Top 4.
That was my only concern. I guess when you're playing the draw and you play the come around, if you get it partly buried, they might just pick it out and you have still lots of room to go. Now they've left a guard for the opposition to come around and they didn't get shot rock.
Yeah, that's the. You're absolutely right. When it's not the shot you make, it's the shot you leave, and they've left a great opportunity here. The last spot you want to leave a rock is on that center
Okay,
line.
what does that mean?
Piece of the 8.
8 foot?
You want a 4?
Yeah. Yep.
How good is it, Linda, that the comment that Heather Smith-Dacey made about her team being young, that really they don't, it's almost that being naive is a good thing. They don't ask a lot of questions. They don't overthink their shots. They just throw.
That's definitely true, Vic. And I guess coming into this, the expectations were not really even there. They just want to go and play every shot one at a time and be their best. And that has a lot of benefits mentally, to being your best and not worrying about making mistakes. You just go and try and make the next one better.
Line's perfect. Line's perfect. Top 4. Top 4.
Very late. Bliss Comstock on the rush, trying to wrap it around that center line stone, top of the 12.
Top 4.
And as you mentioned, she still leaves a corner out. She hasn't had the best week when you look at percentage, but she comes up with the big shot when needed.
The timing has been incredible by the Nova Scotia skip. She makes all the key shots, it seems, and the confidence on throwing those is terrific.
Okay.
I didn't throw big rotation on it, though.
Yeah, I didn't get a good time on it.
All right. 9-5.
Okay.
So facing one for sure, believed that the yellow stone in the 8-foot is second shot. So early pressure on Rachel Homan, the 21-year-old out of the Ottawa Curling Club here in this 3-4 page playoff.
Up, whoa, whoa, get off.
Lisa Weigel on the left, Allison Kreviasek on the right. Still nothing from them as Emma Miskew handles the house. Remember, she threw one through earlier when it was a little heavy. What she got here has to dig in, and it will slide to the back edge. It's a steal of one. Nova Scotia, Heather Smith-Dacey has the Blue Nosers out in front. Nova Scotia with a steal of one brings up our key shot, brought to you by Cashmere Bathroom Tissue. Nothing feels like cashmere.
It's a beautiful shot by Heather Smith-Dacey. All of it good. Perfect broom placement, perfect weight, great line call, great brushing. As a package, this is a wonderful shot, and it achieves the steal that they were looking for. The but in the sentence is the red stone they're drawing around was left there because Ontario made a choice on their first.
Exactly, Lyndon. You don't want to be too hard on this wonderful Ontario team. I think they're one of the favorites to represent us in Russia in 3 years. But you have to know how to miss. We talked about it in the opening. They tried the aggressive shot, but rolled into the exact wrong spot to set up the steal.
So that's a bit of a contrast between the two skips. We're just seeing that Heather Smith-Dacey's choices are very clear, very confident, but not overdoing. And maybe Rachel is just trying to overdo in her first ever Scotties playoff game.
And how can you blame her? 21 years old, and you can't sue her for trying too hard, right? But it's that's how you learn.
Nova Scotia with the 1-0 lead as we welcome you back to Charlottetown. We're in the third in Ontario once again. We'll have the last rock playing the Redstone.
You miss it, you get the back. Just back 12 though.
So this is the example of what we've been talking about on the good side as far as calls go. You had the rock in, on the button, corner guard by Lisa on her first. Then Nova Scotia back with the center guard, and this is trying to open it up.
10.
I love it. It's a great call.
10.
You can't peel that rock, you can just chip it, and that's what they're trying.
Sorry, we're up, right?
And if you can get it in the right spot, you can actually roll this red one buried. This is going to be close.
We're trying to go by now, but the little feather, that's a no-no. You have to let it try and crash.
Okay, sit.
And enough weight to spin all the way out the back.
Just caught in between. You let that crash, you open the guard is what we've been preaching all week. And that thing might have been buried behind the corner.
Vic, you mentioned the ice and stones. The one little difference is I do think it's a tiny bit straighter. Started yesterday with the tiebreaker game, and that is the one thing that Heather Smith-Dacey got the feel of right on the ice. You can look at it.
Line's good.
But that one with that extra weight, the backline weight, the ice need to be cut down quite a bit.
Even?
Yep. Don't set up a double peel, though.
Well.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything high, they're gone. Peel.
Once you don't have the line on those, if you can sweep them side by side, it's tougher to remove them. Now the double is not only easy, but it allows the shooter to roll away.
Allison Kreviasek.
She had good numbers. She also had a huge plus-minus. Shots like that.
Opens up the center line, does leave up a corner, covering the 8-foot.
Higher.
Whoa, line needs to curl.
Gotta go.
Okay. Needs to cross center.
What?
Needs to cross center with it, so just judge it for that.
Cross center.
Cross center, go hard. Go hard, guys. It's
Have to
finishing
keep it
real
alive
nice.
to get the maximum amount of curl
All you
here.
got, go hard. Keep hard, keep it going, go. Keep it going, go. Great sweeping.
See a quarter. Sorry. See a quarter. Just high.
I see like an 8.
With it being a little bit straighter, I think that's a tendency we're going to see with the guards, unless they take that really wide ice to play the big swoop. because it's dropping a little shorter than the draws, you really have to be careful with how much ice you give. It seems that they're not curling up quite enough.
Hack! Yep! 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 You're on the guard. Hard! Weight's good. Roll first line.
Guard, is it hard enough to punch the guard out?
Shot eye.
Nice shot.
Another guard.
So I got a 25 on yours, Bliss. I got a 25 on yours.
Yeah, it's really slow slide.
The young Ontario team has made a couple of mistakes when they miss a shot, as we just illustrated. But throughout the week, I'm very impressed with their strategy and ice calling, and they really get it. Linda, the good soft weight there, rolled over for second corner.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. And when they talked to Kelly Scott after losing the tie-breaking
Let
game,
it work a bit.
she said, quite frankly, there was a
Three.
time
Oh, needs to curl a lot.
that you would be able to
Gonna have to
catch
finish it
Okay,
soon.
go
a
hard
junior
now.
team
You know where it needs
making
to
the
be.
move
Top
to
center.
women's play,
Top
catch
center,
them
go
on
hard.
maybe on
Hard,
strategy,
go hard. It's
catch
coming
them
down.
on a lack of ice knowledge.
Hard,
But she said
hard,
you
hard,
couldn't.
hard.
First of all, you have a veteran skip handling this team in Heather Smith-Dacey, and you're not going to catch somebody like Rachel Homan.
No, Rachel has done a good job this season in playing the Bonspiel circuit in women's play, so that's how Rachel got a bit of extra experience against these teams. And Heather Smith-Dacey, playing mixed all these years with her husband, I think has also got a good feel for what is needed, when to bail out, when to go for it, that sort of thing.
And then you look conversely at the teams that didn't get that kind of experience, like Rachel Homan, who has won a couple of Bonspiel events.
11.
Stacey Devereaux from Newfoundland Labrador, Canadian junior champion, but albeit without the experience that somebody like Homan has.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. Sorry, Linda. That I think that's the biggest difference in curling in our big country here. Geographically, some of the eastern teams, I'll pick on them, just aren't paying their dues and getting out and playing in the big events against the best teams. And that's the only way. It's absolutely the only way, other than listening to Linda and Vic. It's the only way to possibly improve in this game in fast track. And the other option is to play front end for a few years for a well-established skip. But if you're going to come right out of junior, you have to play the big teams.
And that's a huge investment, both time and money. And that's why it is difficult.
Danielle Parsons.
That was a nice little chip and roll by Ontario. Nice seeing that to Rock State in the rings. And Heather Smith-Dacey will default off into the more defensive style, in particular without hammer, so she is hitting the open one, even though it is second shot.
Okay. All right.
But to Vic's point, not too many junior teams, men's or women, would play that soft shot like Ontario just did. And they were rewarded by hanging around. And now everything's behind the tee line.
You can even roll underneath, I guess. Well, it's not the greatest. We can just bury. If we're going to do that, I'd rather come around the corner, I think. Sorry? If we're going to do that, I'd rather come in the corner. Well, just we got to be shot. And then they got to hit and roll if we're open at all. Okay. I don't mind this. Okay. Just bite the four, guys.
The first indication was to play a hit and try and roll over in front of the other yellow after you remove the first one. Of course, then, though, you're behind the tee line and allow a freeze. So they were talking about which one to draw behind. It's always a little difficult to draw behind a tight opposition guard, both to get around it buried, but also because you leave the run back. That's why Emma called down, but this is an easier path to follow.
Hard! Hard! Drag it! Go! Hard! Farther, guys! Hard! Hard!
Weagle and Kreviasik wanted to bite the four.
Sorry.
They'll come up a little light. And so Shotstone remains Nova Scotia at the back of the 8-foot.
You like?
Second shot is Ontario sitting
If you
top.
could place it right here, it'd be pretty nice.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd probably just bump.
What if you came here?
Yeah. You can't wick off that at all, though, or she's got a double delay, too. What about just here?
I mean, what does she have? Like, all she has is a tap right now, right?
Yep.
What if you come this way?
I don't know. I don't really like leaving her this. Like, this isn't bad either, is it?
She's coming around here, too.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're number one. Here's a shot.
This is wide open.
No, but I'm saying guard it.
What
I
are
know.
we?
Well,
We're one.
Okay.
Like here.
Okay, she's coming around and to sit one here,
Yeah.
now, right?
She can't play the in-turn, though. There's not enough room. She's got to play away from the 4-foot over here, right?
No, no, but she has this, is what I'm saying. She's playing this.
But what do you
this
like
way.
then?
Well, I don't mind the guard. I'm just saying,
Like,
okay.
I mean, this isn't terrible.
No.
I mean, if it's coming in, just play the corner free. She'll play the bump, but we'll have an angle, right?
Yeah.
Or this.
Okay.
Take lots of ice. That's going to move.
Would you like more than that?
Yeah, I think so.
Lots of discussion on how to play this, but the tough part, I like the call, but the tough part is how do you guard everything?
The tight guard, but you can take it into corner freeze red.
There'll be a tap here, or there could be a tap here, depending on where that red guard is. It's kind of tough to guard them both. It's possible.
Straight guard on the shot on the back, but make it nice and tight. Okay.
And it does concern me when they talk about the if it curls, we'll do this. You really want to be definite with what you're trying to block off.
And further to what you were saying earlier about the ice maybe starting to get a little dished, the fact that they are out this far, is that an indication of it?
Exactly, and for the viewers that don't mean what the term dished is, it's flat in the middle and high on the outsides, like a dish. If you took a cross section of a dish and looked at it from eye level, and so way out here is where the curl starts, and it'll really bust from the hog line in. There it goes.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Now, do you think coming down the other side, there's you can actually come around that red stone that we're looking there on the right to get into the 4-foot? You think get in there?
Definitely you can, because of what we just said. If you can go out wide enough, and we watched Saskatchewan's last rock last night. Linda and I both looked at the ice that was ladled out for that shot and felt it would over curl because of the dish. And way out wide, even as far as edge of the 12, it'll curl hard.
Just barely. Yeah. But I'd rather roll in, Em.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no draw here, right?
No.
Alright. Yeah.
So we're going to try and play the run back on the one that was just played onto shot stone.
Take a look at the ice they're playing here. It's almost negative. They have to hit that top rock that Heather just threw virtually dead on to run it straight through. The rock is well inside that, so that explains that outward motion that Rachel has. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just different, and she knows it. Plays the broom incredibly tight, 4 or 5 inches tighter than most people. Floats it back, and it'll almost fall.
Yes! Whoa! Yeah! Go!
Run it back, and she will pick it off, and the little rub at the back. But shot stone now is the Ontario rock, top of the 8-foot.
And if you're wondering how they got to the record they did, this is a weapon she does use effectively time after time. Big weight, big rotation, lots of bounce when it hits.
Fantastic hitting team, including the lead. All 4 of them can throw it high and hard and very accurate. And knowing your release is the key on that shot. And a well-played rock.
Well, you being the golfing pro, I mean, you think about different swings. Today, many of the swings are cookie cutter. They come to the point.
I just have a touch more.
Look at Fred Couples, who would sometimes you'd think that club of his was spinning around, but it's where he meets the ball. He always gets back to the same point.
Exactly, and Fred's probably the best example to compare that to Rachel. Wherever Fred aims so far to the left, it's not funny, and he pushes the ball to the right, and that's almost exactly what happens with Rachel's out turn. It goes out to the right, way right, way right, way right, but she knows it. She ices it. They know how to call it. They don't oversweep it, and she's a great hitter.
Heather Smith-Dacey, final stone, looking for the run back. Did they hold the line for her? No, they couldn't. And now the center is open too.
It's all right. A little more ice.
So if we go back to the strategy of Nova Scotia and the little bit of conflict in the house.
Did you give Lisa for the
The
guard?
third was wanting to get second shot in and concerned about playing a guard, and it was a difficult way to get another rock in, but that is the one thing you have to consider, how hard it is to guard perfectly on this ice and not leave something.
What are you throwing? What are you throwing?
Fully.
Fully.
Okay. Good shot.
And that broom position is the perfect example of what you were talking about. To get to that spot, you go to the edge of the 12-foot, or you can sit the broom in the 4-foot.
It's amazing, isn't it? That she's down underneath the hill inside the mountains. And that'll run a lot straighter here. And it is Rachel's out turn.
Whoa, there. Don't jump it. It's up. 6. It's up. Get off. 7. It's up.
It's okay.
Do you need backing? Good.
Do you need backing? Yep.
8. 8. We don't have backing anymore. Don't think we need it.
Ontario, and appropriately, as Russ says, coming off the mountain, and we hear cowbells here in Charlottetown. Jennifer Jones and Team Canada 1 win away from making it a 4th straight Scotties championship. They're into the final tomorrow night here in Charlottetown. One of these two teams will move on to the semifinal later this afternoon against Saskatchewan. You'll see it at 5 local, 4 Eastern time. And Ontario with the 2 and 3 takes the lead, and Nova Scotia now has the last rock for the very first time in the game here in the 4th, playing the Yellowstone.
Let it work. Wow, it's gotta go 8.
And just a small mistake on that first stone of the end for Nova Scotia, and that's they came just behind the button, coming around that center guard.
Hard. Yep. Finish, Allie. Keep going. Hard.
Try and get to the inside. Just tap it over here. About the same.
How much weight? Like back 8?
Even back 4 is fine.
Fantastic curling ice when you can tap a rock with nearly 4 feet of broom. Try to get to the inside here. There's definitely room around that guard.
Same weight. Wall line.
More.
Wall line.
Whoa. Let it work. Let it work.
No.
Nova Scotia lead, Terry Lake.
Coming now.
Whoa.
Clean it.
Whoa.
Yep. Hard now.
Yep. Hard.
Quick.
Hard.
Quick.
Oh, you know what? Here's something we've talked about all week. She gets a little rub and roll to sit for shot stone, but you know it's going to curl. You have to brush it. They've had some good numbers, Linda.
Terrific week for. We talked about it. Were there questions? Yes, they're just out of juniors in the case of Emma and Rachel, and not long for Allison. But beautiful numbers. And mentioned Emma. Yes, she was 5th amongst the thirds, but getting better and better, finding the feel. It was the draw weight early that cost her in those numbers. So very solid performances by all 4 players, all Scotties rookies.
Go. Hard, all the way. Hard, no corners. Go.
Run the center line guard by and roll the shooter over to the corner.
And for an aggressive team, we often expect that Ontario will score a lot of points.
Yeah, I know.
And that has been the
even if you
case.
just move this a
And
little
that's
bit.
impressive. I guess what's really impressive, we've already seen them put a deuce up on the board, is, Russ, often you talk about aggressive teams and how they can limit opposition. And that's, as a coach, something that's hard to teach.
It certainly is, and you can be aggressive without hammer as long as you're smart about it. And there was a situation there, they might have played the freeze into the pocket.
Back 8. Not
Rolling
bad.
open like
Line's
that
okay,
created a
Allie.
corner
Line's
guard
fine.
for Nova Scotia to use
Whoa.
later, and obviously open the front up.
Still needs to curl.
Bliss Comstock.
Okay, line's okay now.
Whoa.
Still needs to curl a bit.
Curl.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Like that one?
So you will see that Rachel Homan has found a way to score,
Homan's sitting
but
there.
also was
Okay,
the
let's do
best
that, okay.
at limiting points against, stole big, but didn't give up too many steals. And that combination is a rarity. And we're talking about a person just out of juniors. What brilliant strategy to get that kind of result.
I can't agree more, and I'd like to give Earl Morris a lot of credit. He worked with them for year after year after year, right from Little Rocks, I understand, and it has definitely paid off.
Clean. Yep. Go at a bit, Lise. Nice shot.
To sit two without last rock. Interestingly enough, Earl Morris, of course, has gone on now and is working basically, as he says, on a part-time basis with Jennifer Jones and Team Canada.
Rachel Homan has Andrea Ronebeck working with them, and she is a brilliant coach. We already talked about Mark Dacey for Heather Smith-Dacey. And as Russ and I both know as coaches, it is a long season. You work with teams now 12 months a year to get them prepared for their conditioning, their mental skills, as well as their on-ice skills. So it's a very difficult job, and they do wonderful work.
Keep going. Hard. It's got to be here. Really hard. Oh, God.
One of the reasons we have the best record in the world is we have the best coaches in the world, the best facilities in the world, and we play all the top teams more often than everybody else, and it's so important to have a great coach.
And Andrea was a part of the national program working with the CCA for many years and went away from the program this year so she could work with Rachel.
Isn't going anywhere.
Really making a great result
top
here.
8, guys. Okay. If we can get it here, that's perfect, but we can't rub off. Okay.
Do you think the same way as I threw last time?
Yeah. Just gonna stay close because it seems like if you're not cleaning them, they're just kind of halting.
Yeah.
Looks a little late to me.
I think this was like a 4.
Yeah, hard. Line's great.
Emma miscue
Whoa!
as we play
Good
third
three.
Stones.
Okay, just get it in. Go. 3. Hard. Hard, guys. Go. 4. Hard. Bite it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. Finish. Oh.
No.
Okay.
A little bumpier week for Nova Scotia when you look at the rankings and percentages. That's during round robin play. Remember the tiebreaker though, 84%, and remember this team was learning over the course of the week and making fewer mistakes on strategy, timing the big shot for Heather, and that means a berth in the 3-4 game.
I like just a 9.
Okay.
8.5, 9.
Here.
8.5? Yeah.
This call here is one reason, Linda, I think that the lower percentages but still successful week for Nova Scotia. By making the shot, now this isn't easy, but making the shot, if you can run that yellow onto the red, stick it, you open up the scoring area, you put another yellow in the rings, and one slight mistake and you can score a multiple score here.
Yep. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. 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 Yes. Yep. Yes.
Daniel Parsons.
Whoa. 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 Whoa.
Get the other, almost got the other one too.
Leaves the angled stone sitting center line. Top 12.
Like board?
Little thicker on that one, and you still accomplish what you want, but that yellow thrown rock kicks the red, rolls back into the rings.
You always have to look at the good side of it. It wasn't exactly perfect, but what it does do is force the opposition to make a different play. They're not guarding anymore.
They can't be aggressive, can they?
Throw it behind the corner. No, it's already there. Sit. Yeah.
And we'll just hang on to the edge of the 12. Pops out
Okay.
the wide
This
side.
a little. Okay. Let's play for here. Get shot rock.
The 4 losses for Nova Scotia is reflected in the numbers, have given up a lot more points, as we see, given up a lot of steals. Yes, they've stolen a lot. 15 ends, 24 points. That's really amazing. But just the timing of the right shot, and that's something that's hard to explain through those numbers.
Yep. Yep. Hard line.
This would be the right time for this shot.
It's not the right time to be light, though. They have to get this here.
Top button, go hard, guys. Hard, really hard. Line's perfect. Go, 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 go. Hard, really hard. Come on, he's still moving, still moving. Go, 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 go. Hard, 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 hard.
All right, good sweeping.
What'd you get?
4-4.
These rocks aren't in a bad spot. Want to freeze it?
Sure. That's like this?
Yeah. What if it goes like just inside and all 3 are gone?
I Yeah. Like, this situation is good for us. Like, this rock's not going anywhere.
No. But she can nose that. We get to.
Nose this? Well, she's going to throw draw on her first one. And then we could do something. I think we have to hit that one. Or roll off this one.
Board again?
Yeah. I'll just roll behind the corner over there.
We're not going to stick around, though.
No. Well, we can.
We might as well throw normal, right?
Pardon?
All right.
Where are you rolling to?
I don't mind down board.
Okay.
This rock is very dangerous. That's the way that it can be run into the reds.
They were going to ignore it too, and realized at the last second that this thing had to be moved.
Same as yours, Em.
Wait, solid.
Uh-oh.
Going to catch a corner here?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I think so.
Yeah, just rolling out.
And they do. They only get a little jiggle now as well by touching those stones, so there's a little separation.
Option, like
Keep an eye on that spot as the game goes along, Vic. That is where it is a little straighter inside the dish.
I think we got to play it now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like a 9.5.
That one's in. That's. You just thinking to try and lay 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, you really don't. You have to move this back, right?
I know.
But you don't have to move it out. But I'm still thinking like at least a 10, like a 9.5, 10.
We hit this and roll in. This one's not going anywhere. Where's our shooter? This we could get rid of this one.
Yeah, she's still throwing a guard on it. We're going for one.
Yeah. Okay.
10?
10.
9.5?
Yeah, it's not about killing them. It's more about.
Yeah. Okay. 10?
I mean, we still have this too, though. We just have to be shot rock after the shot. That's the only thing.
That's tough, though.
Yeah, I like a 10.
Okay.
Is that a lot of ice?
Fantastic thought process there. They'd like to freeze, but there's
So a
really
10.
no room.
Okay.
They'd like to play the
red ones
double
off the
with
button.
lots of weight to play a double, but then you roll out, and they've decided somewhere in between they're going to throw a little softer shot. I think it's smart to get at this one now, Linda. If you try something different and don't get shot rock, you might not get a second chance.
No, definitely the moment to do it.
And I thought also a good suggestion for Heather to you don't have to remove these, you just move them, get them back there. You might even help create a bit of a wall.
10. Whoa. Whoa. One more. Whoa, no.
Heather
Whoa.
Smith-Dacey and her first. She does have the last rock here in this fourth.
It's trying. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay.
And she'll pick off the top stone, lose the shooter. It is still Ontario sitting the
A little
one.
more finish, yeah.
Back 4.
You have to be
Throw it,
careful
that's
with
fine.
the weights
Yeah.
today, with it being that straight in that spot in particular. If you don't throw what was timed supposedly to be 10 seconds hog to hog or even quieter, I don't think it's moving at all.
That did nothing. It just rode the tape for the longest time.
Yeah. Just come the same way. Let's throw
It'd be
normal.
hard to just keep 2 anyways there.
She's weird. Okay. Should run dead straight. Try and get a flop underneath.
Staying with the turn that she knows.
Normal up. Go. Clean. Yep. Hard. Hard. Hard, hard, hard. Hard. Straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up. Whoa, whoa.
Nice shot.
So Ontario looking to get the force
Nice one, bud.
or make the force now with Nova Scotia's final stone, and it's a draw against 2.
And a tough one, Vic. A great roll. It sets up an easy double, but I guess Heather's decided not to throw weight at it in case she jams and rolls out to steal a 2. But
Well, it's also taken into
guys think it's gotten a little
consideration. I mean,
heavier
if you
here?
make the double roll out, there is that biter on the outside.
Yes.
So actually, she's facing 3 here.
It is. But the double doesn't look that tough. I mean, it is a nose hit almost.
we just watched it. It just came down. Rachel threw it. We know it's straight there, and that you're never giving up more than 1 probably. And this is a tough shot.
So she has to have a bit of the button. There is a little bit of button backing.
Top, Ontario Rock's kind of in the way. If this is a little heavy and it ticks, it's a steal at 2, so you have to get it by that top one.
Mentioned earlier, Heather Smith-Dacey is
Line's perfect. Line's great. Button.
been able to make the big shots when they're needed most. And here's a big one for her. Drawing against 2, hitting the button. Heather Smith-Dacey will put it right on the pin.
Perfect.
Nova Scotia gets the single, and we are tied. Well, time for our Scotties trivia. Rachel Homan was born in 1989, and it was also Linda's first year as our broadcast analyst. Who won the Scotties that year in 1989? Your first year with us. In a 2-2 tie, as we go to 5, Ontario now with the last rock playing the Redstones.
Well, if you think about what Heather Smith-Dacey has done with her draws in this game, a come around in the second end with the outturn to the button steal. A nice outturn draw there against 3, as we watch that one slide too far. So if you were not paying attention to the fact that Heather Smith-Dacey was making the key shots and getting better and better, you might have scouted her and looked at the fact that in round-robin play she was 58% on her outturns and 75% on her inturns, and you'd be leaving her that outturn, and she's not missing them today.
Nope. Not at all. That was money. Just made that shot look easy. Well thrown, lots of rotation. Sweepers just walked it right in there.
And you know,
keep it going.
You both said, that you probably would have played the double, bang it on the nose. But if you are confident enough, as Heather Smith-Dacey appears to be, with that draw weight, why wouldn't you play to what you believe your strength is?
It was a perfect shot to call, Vic. We weren't criticizing that. I think the only thing we're finding in these 2 days that we're watching the ice is a little harder to know where to put the broom. And as Russ said, if you happen to put the broom in the wrong spot and rub and roll, you're giving up 2 because they're so close. They're both in the 4-foot.
But Russ, every skip maps the ice. So we know that, and when we say dished, it's not to sound like, as you say, a cereal bowl. It's very slight. But the point is there are edges. So as a skip, you would know where those edges are.
Exactly, and that was the worry in case Heather didn't, and obviously she did, Vic. But we watched it last night with Saskatchewan. Actually, there was 3 or 4 come-arounds late in that game that they waited. It came off the hill, wrecked on the guard, and they just didn't quite grasp that extra curl if you go out wide with your broom placement.
Ontario was hoping to get that more to the top of the 4-foot, not leave so much room for Bliss to come down and freeze or tap.
We talk about this Ontario team full of Canadian champions, junior champions. Well, all the front end, the 3 members of the Nova Scotia team, Parsons and Lake and Comstock, have all won Nova Scotia provincial championships. And Bliss Comstock throwing now was part of Jill Mauser's Canadian junior championship team back in 2004. So they have that kind of experience. But this is their first appearance at a Scotties.
I think the other thing to touch on too is they're all winners. It might not be at the Scotties, but it's in their minds they've won the biggest competition they can possibly play in. And winning breeds winning, and that confidence is a very valuable thing at any level.
Whoa, no line. 5. No line. Switch. No line at all. 6.
Nice little pocket
5.
here for Ontario.
Nope, to go soon. Wait. Okay, go.
That's a good point. Sherry Madaw, who is the 5th player for the Ontario team, was quoted earlier in the week when asked about this team that she's here and helping. They're all curling, she said, like they've been here before.
Yeah, it's Hard to explain, though, how difficult that is. It's fine to say, and Russ is absolutely right. If you're a person that has won before, you have that in you, you have that confidence. But there are so many things that are different here, and in particular the ice and stones, but just the teams you're playing against and the kinds of shots you're being asked to make, and the complication of the strategy at a women's level or a men's level as opposed to a junior level. It's just all different. So to actually be able to apply all the lessons from juniors and do this well is terrific.
And here she goes, Bliss Comstock, trying to come around the center line guard.
Okay.
There are 2 or 3 Nova Scotia come-arounds that they've been fixated on the line, and they're really going, let's wait, starting to break, but we're not quite getting the information from the sweepers on the speed, and they've lost a couple, just 2 or 3 feet light, but that's costly.
Yeah.
If they'd been anywhere in that 4-foot, this angled tap would not really even be possible.
Like keeping our rock there?
Yeah, we got to keep our rock here. All right. T-line, Allie.
Okay, just add a few
So when you
feet
look
there.
at that picture, that's 3 mistakes on Yellowstones, 2 deep and 1 high that overlapped. And this gives Ontario the chance to get a second one in there.
Doesn't look big.
Whoa. 7. Yep. Whoa. Yeah. Hard. All the way. Go.
7.
Hard.
All the way for Lisa Weigel and Emma Miskew on the brush.
Hard, guys. You got it.
7.
Have to get it by the yellow first.
Whoa, let it quick.
A little rub. Look at that.
Not bad,
And it'll push it up to sit for 4th shot. Shot stone back button, and then 2 and 3 belong to Nova Scotia.
Veteran call here by Rachel Homan. They knew they were close to getting by. Was going to over curl, let it tick, lines it up beautifully. Doesn't quite bump it enough, but that's a dangerous red rock.
Heather Smith-Dacey is going to guard that scenario. There is room on the other side to get in because we know how much it will curl in. But this situation is so good for Ontario. She's going to try and block it now.
Danielle Parsons.
Finish it.
Yep.
Yep, now.
Hard line. Hard line.
Yep, go.
Quick,
Hard.
go.
Whoa. Okay, that's a nice shot.
Looks like a simple shot, but that's a well-thrown stone. If the speed controls off, it overcurls, and there'd be a chance for the double tap.
Like in the same area where you see where that grandma skins thing is?
What do you like? You want to clear the guards? Okay. So we can get that to hit onto there. It's gone, and then the 7's gone. Half a rock? Okay. Even if you stick it there, well, even a quarter will do it. Peel.
Half the first yellow onto half the second yellow would go across the top of the third yellow and get them all.
Peel.
Yeah. So this is the bailout point, knowing you could open up shot rock, but wanting to get a deuce, not settling for a single.
It's close.
1, 2, and she catches the Ontario stone on the way by. Not quite enough to get in there for second shot. But boy, everything off the front is gone. Everything now seems to be in the 8 and 4 foot.
Why don't you come down and have a quick look?
Heather Smith-Dacey asking Danielle Parsons to come down.
Just looking at the overlap there to see what they can get out.
I can't see much from down there.
I know. I don't think that doubles there. Because you have to cross it a little bit, and it's a little bit scary, because if you end up sending it straight back, it's... Oh, they got some good rocks in there.
Play it, though.
Oh, I don't know. Pick a time? I don't know. It's got badness written all over it. What if you come in and freeze here?
Just tapping.
Yeah, but
Well, then we
that's
don't have
like
a way in. She's tapping again.
Good time.
So time, which means the call for a coach's visit. And here comes Mark Dacey.
Run!
You could play this shot here, but visibly, I don't think the women's team see this shot. When you hit it there, this rock hits there, it'll actually spin.
Is there any hit off that?
Mark might see it.
You like?
Double on those two reds.
You do? I know, it's just scary. I like it too if you make it.
Yeah, you got to get close to the yellow. The top two reds, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first instinct.
Well, I think, aren't you playing like an intern cross face?
Yeah, you got to play intern cross face, and you got to get close to this one to make it.
I think even if you nick the yellow, you're probably still making it. Like you nick it.
So firm
the only
weight,
problem's the shooter.
tight ice.
Yeah.
Firm or more?
Yeah.
Firm peel.
Well, you probably want peel because you need action.
You got to move them.
Yeah, you need action.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, right there, exactly, Danielle.
So they're going to try to make the double on the two reds, top 4 foot and top 8.
And the worry is this yellow rock right here. They try to, as Mark said, they want to just try to sliver past that. Then that will make the double. Both doubles are difficult.
Yeah.
The danger, as Heather mentioned, straight back, double jam.
Get rid of all the yellows.
Yep.
Right out of her hand, Carrie Lake, Bliss Comstock.
Keep going, yep.
Nope, she's going to crunch their own. And now look at the reds that can be bumped up. Remembering now, Ontario does have the last draw.
Sit on 2 here. Yeah, that's really good. Okay.
It's a great example of how Rachel recognized she needed to open things up, and good things can happen. She didn't even hit the rock exactly where she wanted and still bounce things around to cause problems. And now looking at trying to score with rocks all in the rings, no guards.
Back 4. T-line's good.
Okay. Let's make sure we're T.
4 seconds, I think. Yeah. Just need T. Even if you move it up 2 feet, we're shot.
It just has to be.
This team plays with a lot of rocks in play week after week, and their eyes are getting a little wider here because they smell an opportunity. This is a great chance for Ontario.
7. Line's tight.
Emma Miskew.
Whoa. 7.
Line's good.
Whoa.
Yeah,
get off. 8. Whoa. Oh, it's got to curl a lot. 9. It's trying to come. Too much weight, eh? 9. Okay, Em. Good. It's good.
Just hit 2, and both the first and second shots are cornered.
Yeah.
The line part. But it's okay. Now we can run it.
I've been like a little on the light side, so
Okay.
It's a tough draw. We just watched Heather draw the pin last end, but this isn't as simple. The pin's actually dead covered.
Yeah, from the hack, that redstone top 4, just biting the 4, is blocking your view of where you need to get to.
How do you get around that?
That's not easy, Vic. I'm
So
not
same thing
sure
I
it's
drew down here for
mathematically
buttons.
there.
Wow.
90?
Wow.
It's a tough situation, though. You run the top double, and you still leave Ontario sitting 2, drawing for 3.
Because of that backing.
Yes.
So this is the first for Nova Scotia. And Heather Smith-Dacey
Line's perfect.
Oh, you
Roll
gotta wait
room.
for it.
Whoa,
trying to pull out a little magic again from her
You can
pocket.
go if you have to. Whoa.
Yeah. You don't have to. Whoa.
Don't have to, says Lake.
Yeah. No.
Needs to break for her and bust for her, and she'll get there. What do you know? She does have, for the moment, shot stone.
That's world class. That really is just a fantastic shot.
It's not going to stay there long, but.
Well, there are red ones to run in, but you had to do something to try and force a mistake here. It was either open it up and hope on your last you had something, or try and force a mistake right now by getting it in there.
I mean, she could have maybe feathered that stone a little more.
Gotta
It
be
was
straight.
pretty close.
Yeah, my last one came by.
And unfortunately, they almost had to, because this is Rachel's bread and butter. The straight back, 0 ice out turn, lots of speed. Can actually hit either the yellow or the red. Maybe even preferable to hit the red, Linda, and take some speed off this.
Rachel Homan.
Yes! Hard!
Right out of her hand, too. Weagle and Kreviasek trying to run it back. Bang, bang,
Nice
and there
shot.
it goes. Oh, and look at that. It's all red now. Ontario is sitting 5.
So there's the problem we were talking about. You had to hope for a mistake, and this lady isn't making a lot of them. And what happened when she makes the perfect run back with the red one sticking, there's your big issue, because there is no pocket left to draw to.
Those yellows were defenseless. You just needed a bit of speed, dead on, well thrown rock.
Yeah. Yeah. If she gets through, you can still have a drop or a hit for 3.
Now you're trying to minimize the damage.
And you're back to playing the double I wanted earlier. I really like, it was a tough one, but it's that same angle across the top, hit about a small half.
And Earl Morris, who coached them from their junior days when he first met the Homan and Kreviasek family. Yeah, exactly. When he got them together, and when he first brought Miscue and Homan together, he brought some of his sons, John Morris's, gold medals and Team Canada jackets, and laid them in front of them and said, this is what you can aspire to. And they've been doing it for 10 years since. And now here they are into the 3-4 game of the Scotties. Final stone. Heather Smith-Dacey run it back, and we'll get rid of one. And look at this now. It spins back, and it'll be at least a chance for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's just an interesting end to see the strengths of the two players, because Heather Smith-Dacey played the kind of end that she was defending against someone like herself. And what happened is you have someone with the upweight ability who can move so much granite. There on Heather, she just couldn't throw it hard enough to make the shot.
Now it is a draw for 4 to be sure. Those two around the edge of the 12 may be measured for a 5th possible point. But full 12 now for 4.
Weight's good. We're all there.
Kind of end to go and look at again with that timing of when Rachel decides to open it up. Just very good strategy.
Weight's about a 9.
Clean out.
3 missed draws early by Nova Scotia, put them in a hole.
Ontario will score at least 4. And they've kicked it away. And we'll look for what goes up on the board. 4, do they give it 5? It is 5 for Ontario here in the 5th. And an Ontario explosion now has them out in front, 7-2. Rachel Homan and Ontario score 5 in 5 and now lead 7-2. Trying to answer our trivia question of the day. Rachel Homan was born in 1989. Who won the Scotties that year?
Ontario defended their title. It was Heather Houston.
Absolutely.
In Kelowna, I believe. And thank you. That's the first time that we are all right, actually.
This way, Lise.
Man. Okay, this side. Okay.
So what to do now if you're Nova Scotia? You do have the last rock here in 6 playing the Yellowstones.
Well, Russ and I have figured it out on paper. Maybe not so easy to do on the ice.
Mine's good.
But at first, Vic, I don't think you panic too much. If you can get your deuce, maybe force a single, get another deuce, get it within 2, and then try for a couple of steals.
And it's a little easier in theory on paper to get a deuce when the other team's that far ahead.
Nice here.
Rachel's played this before. She realizes that 3 is not an option. So sometimes you give up deuces, not wanting to give up a big end and letting the team back into it. So lots of time yet.
Looks lighter. Right there. Okay. 5. It's top 8. It's out there. Top 8, guys. We're there. 6.
Yeah.
5, 6. All there. Easy. I'm going to save 6.
Normally throw a tight guard, but because of the score, a guard is not an option. You want this one in the top half of the ring.
Yep. Charlie's.
Hack weight. Back line. Actually, let's play back line. Touch heavier here.
What will have to happen in this second 5 for Terry and the rest of the team of Nova Scotia is you have to keep rocks in play. So whatever your choices are, it has to be very quiet types of shots. So it's either playing more guards, playing come-arounds, or if you're moving opposition rocks this early in the end, it has to be very quiet.
I like the call in this case with the second guard. You throw the tap, you're in the rings. Rachel's smart enough to run out and peel that corner guard. Now the play's in the rings.
Even
and with the hitting ability of Ontario, it would be tough to get your 2.
Careful. Even. Either way. That's good, Chair.
Hey, Allie. Yep. No, never. No. Okay, nice shot.
Allison Kreviasek peeling off the guard.
Okay.
Whomever plays Ontario, whether they go on to win this or in future years, does have to realize your strategy needs to take into effect the kind of upweight they can play. We were talking about it in the 5th end break and about the options for Nova Scotia.
Line's good.
How often your setup right up into skip shot changes dramatically when you face a team that can throw that kind of weight.
Yeah, we were both looking at each other when Heather made that fantastic out-turn come around, knowing that it was really for naught because there was that 3-foot blast for Rachel Homan, and she made no mistake.
So sometimes, Vic, you're thinking on thirds rocks about setup, and yes, it's nice to remove stones, and there were options for Nova Scotia, but sometimes you have to even think about setting up by maybe removing only 1 rock, or freezing to something, or tapping something back, but leaving your rocks in play in that top 8-foot position, because once there was the 4, there was nothing except to try and blast.
Talk this back.
BJ Gagnon, the head ice technician, he and his crew have done a wonderful job in monitoring the
Mine's okay.
air temperature, ice
Mine's
temperature.
Whoa.
Become very, very sophisticated.
Whoa.
It really is, Vic. Yesterday, last night's game, 2,000 people walked in here soaking wet, and that adds to the humidity level, obviously, and you're changing on the go. It's a living, breathing thing. Every time it's different. They can't just set the thermometer and go home.
I don't mind a hand roll on this one.
And every championship they walk into a new building they've never seen before and try to turn it from hockey ice into curling ice.
I have to make a double after if we rip.
I like this call, Linda.
Well, especially the way the house is looking. There's huge distance between the rocks and the house. There's really not much happening for Nova Scotia. You definitely have to get rid of the dangerous rock.
Yep. Clean.
You take it. Yep.
And a miscue. And how things have changed for ice makers today with their computers and sensors in the ice. When you think back to the legendary stories of Shorty Jenkins, who would sleep in the compressor room, and he could tell just from the sound of the compressor how the ice was reacting and how the brine was flowing through the pipes and keeping everything cold.
Halfway.
Whoa. It's gonna line. Whoa. Line's nice. Line's good. Line's good.
Really high.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sit. Okay.
In or out. High and turn. Okay. Pretty straight. Yeah, go, drag it out.
That guard was a recognition of what can be done with these peels, trying to protect the one in the house. But there it goes.
Good shooting. Thank you. The shots out. Thanks.
When you're going for your deuce, this is not the look you would like. You would like the rocks behind corner guards, and the rock that is shot stone, you don't mind the Ontario rock resting there for a while. But yours is dead in front of it.
And that's the brilliant move of the young Ontario team, recognizing that and feeling the corner, the dangerous corner. Somewhere along the line, Heather has to come in here and will probably set up a double.
It's interesting when you look at Danielle Parsons playing with Heather Smith-Dacey at the third position. Caitlin Laws, of course, with Jennifer Jones. Emma Miskew with Rachel. And Daniel, Heather Smith-Dacey. Except for Emma. What we've seen in men's play, you take that younger third or younger front end and you put it with the veteran back end.
Is good.
Yes, definitely. Yep. And the interesting thing about women's play this year is not just the young thirds, Vic, but how many players we've talked about have made the leap into women's play so soon, and often in a cluster with a teammate coming along. But more often in the men's play, you'll see maybe the one player inserted in. Maybe a front end, but rarely a third.
Yeah, rarely a third. That's absolutely true. And you look at Johnny Morris joining the great Kevin Martin team. John was well along in his strategies, abilities, shot-making abilities, and everything else that John brings to that team. And yeah, it's definitely different with this young Ontario team, and more power to them. They're very impressive.
Because of the fact that they have sort of, well, not. It's the truth. They've grown up together, these two, ever since their meeting after they had come out of Little Rocks and they started to play juniors, bantam, and then juniors.
You're going to have to go on red.
Okay, blister is 65. Yeah, seems nice.
65 for Hack.
So here's the complication, the Yellowstone being so tight to that red rock. Heather Smith-Dacey trying to set up a deuce. Now she's trying to play a little tap, a rock that's partly buried, and roll away so she doesn't leave a double.
Tough shot.
It's off. Yep. Line's great. Gotta go. Hard.
Not a lot of weight here.
Line's
If they
good.
call back
Hard.
weight,
Quick.
back line.
Gotta go line. Hard. Hard, guys. Line's good. Go hard.
Have to get it around their own stone center line. Top 8. There it is. Able to hold it for? No.
That's not bad. It's a little soft, eh?
A little bit, yeah. Try to stick around. Okay.
A little soft for weight.
Great miss, though. She was soft enough to save the shooter.
Yeah. Well, we could come this way, throw normal. And if I get the back, it goes onto their yellow. Like, that's good. That's what we're going for. But if I wick my back.
Do you like a little less than normal? Or do you like...
It's not going out like it was before.
Okay.
It's just easier to stick around. Sorry? It's just easier to stick around. Yeah. Would you rather come this way? Whichever way you like.
Are you showing normal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Emma trying to be the voice of reason. We were talking about Rachel and her confidence. You said maybe even a little overconfident at times. Trying to do everything with a little hit, chip, get rid of all the opposition rocks. Really, it's a hit to sit 2.
Yeah, and if you're going to hit and stay for 2, why not throw a little softer weight? Stay on the intern side. You get to hack at this. Not much more weight than Heather just threw. Just tap it out of there, stay around. We were looking at the out-turn missile there for a while, and that could have been dangerous.
Just normal. Whoa. No, get off. Get off, get off. Close. No. Yep. No. Whoa. Yep. Hold it.
Nicely done.
Out the back, avoiding the jam. And so Ontario up by 5 is sitting 2 now without last rock here in 6.
Looks like it's going into it, doesn't it? High side, maybe? Or just take our one? Doesn't really help us very much, does it? Not really. Like, it looks like it's going right into it.
No, I think it's there, but you got to hit this thin, and I have to
just miss it. Yeah. Try it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I understand.
I think I need to throw firm.
You know, you
like
want to get
an
your 2, you're down by 5, but at the same point, maybe you have to be a little somewhat cautious here. Get your single, and maybe you can build on that.
I think it might be taken
well, that's the you have to look at the scoreboard. And you have to make that decision
like
as a
just
team.
go for a 1 here?
Don't mind it.
Yeah.
That's the talk right now.
I mean, I know whether you lose by 1 or you lose by 11,
They kind of like
you
just
still
getting our
lost
one.
the gamelet.
Yeah, it's just deciding how difficult this is.
I think
The
it's
issue
good.
is not getting the redstone
Okay,
on
just
the
put back
button
line down
onto
to
the
the back
yellow,
line.
so it's a thin double to try and get it to pass by.
The double's there, and it is thin, and you have to hit it virtually dead on the top one and just whisker that second red. I think that's the concern, because as Vic points out,
Touch less ice.
a mistake here, it's 8-2.
Yeah.
So the front end decided, along with Heather, that it's the single they're going for, just tapping shot rock.
And that 5.
No more. Okay.
Really the difference. Ontario scored it in 5 to lead 7-2. Final rock.
This has to curl. You're down under the dish here. This is not a spot that curls a lot. The weight has to be bang on.
Curl.
Curl.
Hard, Danielle.
Curl.
Move it far enough and sit. And looks like the shooter did just hold on. So Nova Scotia will get their single here in 6. And Ontario has a hammer when we come back. Well, a week today, March 5th, we'll be in London, Ontario for the opening draw of the Tim Hortons Brier, the Canadian Men's Curling Championship. First draw at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And later that evening at 7 p.m., we'll be on the air with a half-hour preview show of the entire men's field as we welcome you back to the Civic Center here in Charlottetown. Ontario has the last rock back here in 7 after Nova Scotia got their single. Ontario up by 4 in a battle to see who will move on to play Saskatchewan in the semifinal later today. And please make a note of the time difference. It's not this evening. We'll be with you at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with the semifinal, Saskatchewan and Amber Holland from Chrono against the winner of this 3-4 playoff.
Oh, line's
Cross
good.
center. Got to cross center. Clean it.
Yep, just
Well, the
clean
little
it.
plan
Yep,
for Nova
finish.
Scotia was to try and get
Finish
a deuce
it.
and maybe
Finish it.
force
Yep,
and
now,
then
go,
another
go,
deuce
now.
and then
Yep,
maybe
go,
think
go,
about
go, go,
stealing, but that went by the wayside with the great peeling ability of
Right on top,
Ontario,
please.
and she was forced to the single last in, not wanting to play the double.
Top's great.
So this
Great.
is steal mode already, trying to get 2 centerline guards in place. Give full credit to Lisa, though, for
What's up?
Ontario, the way they
Gotta go
played
get
this.
it. Looks like
They're asking her to
more.
put those
Go.
anchors top 4 in behind cover, and she did it
less.
beautifully on her first.
Oh,
I think a lot of young curlers think playing lead is because you're the worst player, and that is absolutely not true at the high level. And there's so much pressure on these top shots. First 4 shots have to be just, look at that, just perfect.
Is that a different line? Just too much weight. I can tell her hand is more.
Get this one behind the team.
Well, that's one of the things that
Moving stuff?
the Ontario team in the analysis of some others is that all of them playing together as long as they have, they are all quite content in their roles.
How's the weight?
You know, not everybody can skip.
We gotta go,
That's
Heather.
Rachel.
Okay.
You know, it's
Line's good.
maybe Emma,
Line's good.
as we've talked
Line's
before,
good.
Linda,
Yep.
is comfortable at third. She still
Yep.
gets to
Yep.
manage the
Hard
house, but
line.
she doesn't have to
Hard.
make the ultimate
Go.
decision. And yes,
Hard.
you've got 2 players
Go, 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 go,
in
go,
Lisa and Allison who are quite content at the lead and second spots.
It's really nice to see. They're all very happy, all very good at their roles, and very supportive and trusting of their teammates. It's exactly what you want.
Well, do you want to be a skip on an average team or a lead on a championship team? And then until they stop splitting the money 4 ways, that's the way to do it. And you're right, Vic. You don't see that into the junior level very often either. You often watch them come off the ice and say, I should be bicing. That's one of the reasons they're so good.
Keep going, Lise. Okay. Good, sweet. All right.
Alice Treviasic missing the run back to get the center line guard.
Made the peel. The numbers are a little low for her. The nice thing is that from now on, the precision isn't as important. She's probably going to be doing a lot of blasting, and they have such upweight ability You can hit that rock in several places and still get a very good outcome.
But the execution, though, is critical, though. I
Line's
mean,
good.
you're not suggesting that it's you just throw it down there. You still are trying to write guards off,
But
right?
it's not having to drop a guard, for example, just like this, so far from the other one, so you don't leave a double peel. Just the precision isn't quite as much on these upweight shots. They still have to make them, absolutely, Vic.
And the one danger to Vic's point, is that you, with that big lead, it's easy to start overthrowing it. Because we all know the harder you throw it, the better chance you have of rolling, but it also throws you off line and balance. And you have to be careful not to, you have to keep it in your comfort zone.
Runs it back again. And will leave her shooter covering the edge of the 8-foot. The other thing that comes into play here when you're talking about a team as
And just keep your shooter here.
Okay.
young as this one for Ontario, and realizing that they have all this experience. I mean, they won $11,000 on the women's tour this year. Is that at this point in time, with a comfortable lead, do they keep their same mindset? Do they, to use the cliche, keep the pedal
hard line.
down?
Hard line.
Or do they lose focus? And in that losing focus, allow a team with an experienced skip to come back?
I think Rachel looks like one of the more focused players I've ever seen. I appreciate your point, Vic, but I think the one thing is they actually scored their points with the upweight, so it's not changing a lot by putting the first couple in and then blasting. That's kind of their way of even scoring these days. Little tap trying to rearrange the rocks. Heather Smith-Dacey knowing at some point she has to make a play on those reds.
Okay, let's do that. It's kind of risky. They could be line 3 after it. I don't think we need to.
Just the single?
Can you just pick the top one?
Yeah. Well, no, because I'm thinking.
What do you guys like? You want to go for it or no?
What do I have to hit?
They have to nose ours, though.
3/4.
And if I hit half, I go by it?
If you hit half, you're just going to jam it there.
They nose ours, and then we double theirs.
There's no guards.
Whatever you like.
Even if we just peel, the angles aren't the greatest for them. Still got 2.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
This is the first time we've seen this indecision.
All right, peel.
If you're Ontario, the main thing is to have a place to score. You don't need to score more than one. You just want to keep them off the steal side.
Shut up.
Can we just tap this in here? See if you can get one behind the tee.
You heard Rachel say the angles aren't
Like
great.
half a rock, though, or? Yeah, just high side of this one. Okay.
3/4 maybe.
Kind of
I think that's why they peeled the guard, because once these are bumped around a little bit, there should be a very easy opportunity for double unless they can get the reds almost behind both yellows.
Wait, nice. Yep. Whoa. Whoa. Back 8. Whoa.
Close. Whoa.
Back 8. Back 12. Whoa. Whoa.
Whoa.
Yep. Hard. Quick. Yep. Okay.
Just like that.
Okay.
Like board, wait, just come at it this way. We can tap ours up to there too. Do you like board?
Okay.
I think we almost have to come this way, eh?
I have tons of space on this side.
With board? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hit it around on this side.
Talking about tapping this out with softer weight, and they're saying the top red, the one at the top of the button, they can tap it back. I'd rather myself keep that one in front of the tee line. I'd rather lose the back one than the front one. And then the higher these red ones are for Ontario, the better it's going to be later in the end. That's a way better play. You move the back one as opposed to the front one.
Get him. Angles are better now. Yeah.
4-point lead. It's so easy to have the urge to blast at something, get those enemy rocks out of the presence of mind to keep the red ones in the proper spot. Control that scoring area.
And you're counting down. Nova Scotia just 2 rocks left, so you're again contemplating how it will finish out so that you have at least a chance to score if you're Ontario.
Heather could tap the top yellow into the pocket. This is tough to get at this red one.
Skip Stones here in the 7th.
So what do you want, a 70? Yeah, back line? Yeah. Okay.
Nova Scotia trying to keep the hopes alive for maritime teams out of the Mayflower in Halifax.
It's nice.
Back line.
Yep.
Has to get really close to the yellow and not to roll open.
Whoa. 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 Close. Yep. Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yep.
Whoa, whoa.
Yep. Hard.
Oh, nicely done.
Great throw, Heather. Shows how it's facing too instead of.
Yellows are hard to remove.
That'll sit there. It's not so bad. It's real thin, Em. Yeah. Okay. I think if we can hit it as thin as possible, it might tap us up a little. Should be better. But, like, look how there's only a little space in between, and if we just hit half, I think if we hit it too thin, we're just sticking it. We got to get some action on this one. No, there's no way I can stick that. Okay, let's go for half or less. Yeah. A quarter, do it, Em. Okay.
Just virtually right where the broom is. And really, all they're trying to do is actually make the double. Out there, try to save their rocket that's actually in the scoring position, top 4.
Double.
Zero ice again, Linda. This is going to be moving.
This will be a blast. This will help open things up a little bit.
Yeah, go! Hard! Whoa! Hard! Yeah! Hard! It's good.
Leaves the Nova Scotia stone cornered on the shot rock.
It's just a much better looking house. Well, yes, the enemy can remove yours, and yes, they can sit too, but all of that leaves a house where rocks are just in the 8-foot and there are no guards blocking your way.
Dead on, and the worst that can happen is a hit against 2 and not a lot of danger, and a shot that Rachel should be able to make and score her single point, and that really was the goal.
Heather, what about the same thing you just played? Yeah, that's what we're doing. No, we're not. She means this. Oh. Okay. You mean on the red, Terry?
Yeah, well, we have to get it out, that's all.
No, I know.
You have to get it out. Last time we weren't getting it out.
Yeah, you were getting it out.
Were we?
Yeah.
Did it go out? Okay.
Same ice then, same way.
Boy, they're going to play the exact same shot, which Heather made perfectly. But this is a low percentage shot. The hit on the yellow is a no-brainer. As long as you're soft enough, you can save your shooter. But I think this is the tougher of the 2 shots.
Not sure how much more it's getting you.
No.
It would be one thing if you were talking about tapping a rock back at the back of the 4-foot and sitting in front of it and all those things potentially leading to a difficult shot for Rachel Homan, but this is having to move it quite far to get shot rock.
The miss here is a draw for 2.
4. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Final stone.
Forward. Whoa.
Final rock for Nova Scotia here in 7.
Whoa. Girl. Hard. Go.
Go, 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 go,
Hard, keep going, Em. Keep going, keep going.
Oh, and then the shooter will roll too far, and the raised rock stays back 12, and this is a chance for 2 now for Ontario.
I really don't see the point of playing that, and I know it's difficult. You're playing against a team that's making a lot of shots, and you're trying to make their life more difficult, but that wasn't one of those where it was setting up.
That's part of curling, isn't it? It's knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, but it's all about the odds. When I was throwing a shot, you think about the odds, and to make the yellow tap, you're going to make that, I don't know, maybe 75-80% the way Heather can hit, and you might lose the shooter, but that was more like a 50-50 shot, and almost made it, but not good enough.
Control? Yep. Clean.
Rachel Homan in Ontario, they got 5 in the 5th.
Clean.
And now here in 7, they're going to get 2 more. Ontario is cruising, and a reason to toot their horns. Amber Holland going to come up enough to make the double. Yeah, yes, she does, and she'll sit right there.
This is a toughie.
They call them on. Spin and across, got it, stuffed it perfectly. Hellenja got a goal. No, it just won't. And Team Canada will find their way into the Sunday final. So Saskatchewan waits. And who will they play? Well, at the moment, that's Ontario, up comfortably by 6, and we'll have that semifinal. Make a note, please. It's later today, this afternoon, across the country at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 Pacific. The semifinal of this year's Scotties from here at the Civic Center in Charlottetown. The winner can go on and play Jennifer Jones and Team Canada. So in goes the first, up goes a long corner, and then you saw that red blur, and that was the second Ontario lead stone.
And a planned throw-through, that was not a mistake. I think the team even thought the first one might get a throw-through, but Lisa is playing so well. Rachel with the confidence and wanting something in the middle in case things go not the way she wants to make life a little more complicated for Heather, so it came in.
And for the newer skips out there, if you do put the first one, try to put it in the perfect spot, as Lisa did, and it backfires, you don't get it in the right spot, you can hit your own rock, even if it's in the free guard zone. So you can clean up that mistake if you have to.
Good.
It does mean if you put it in the middle, your peeling is from the center line, so you don't jam it towards your rock. That's the only thing you have to take into account when you make that plan.
Close. No, let it curl up. Clean. Okay.
Yesterday it was Nova Scotia with the big lead and trying to hold on to it in the second half in the tiebreaker.
Tight.
Okay. Now we have to figure out a way to come back, and it's against a team that is unlike many others in this event, and that's Ontario's upweight ability.
Sure, looks like a lot still.
Oh, they're impressive. They really are. Lots of rotation. You've got the good form. That's the secret. You can throw it hard and stay balanced. That's half the battle, and they make a lot of peels.
Peel.
Same thing.
Whoa. Yep. Clean. Got this. Shot time.
Sliss Comstock. And then, I mean, you're really caught here, aren't you, if you are Heather Smith-Dacey? It's going to be tough coming back.
Yep, just come around that one then.
But you're trying to use wide corners, tapping stones and using the stones in the house. That's going to be difficult.
It is, Vic. Once you get the corner up, you feel you have a chance for a deuce. But you're right. Eventually you have to come over to that one in the middle. And right now, Rachel's going to make sure it's no more than a deuce by just peeling off these guards. So it's very hard to think even bigger, and you're down 6. Not just down 2 at this stage.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yow.
Sorry, thanks, Heather.
Just a little tick over.
Just enough, though. It's opened it up totally, and they have to waste another rock guarding.
That was my point, not trying to be negative about the way they're throwing, but Vic, I said they didn't have to have too much precision on those hits. That's an example. That was almost a miss, but with that speed, Emma got it over enough.
Still does the job.
Back one.
Really high.
It's high. 2.
Whoa. Really high. Whoa, whoa,
What?
whoa. Really high guard.
It's really high. Over and drop.
Oh, yep.
For finish.
A little bit of finish.
What?
Yep.
Yep.
Bit of
Yep.
finish. Yep. Okay, good.
There's a hole if you want me to hit the back one. What? I can see almost all of it. All of what? The rock in the back. That's a pretty tough hole, eh? Oh, it's not so bad from back here. Fine. Just wanted to let you know. Oh, it's there.
Whoa.
Whatever you like. Just if you wick, let me jam. It's kind of what she's hoping for, right?
Is that what she's hoping for?
Yeah, she is.
So, there you go.
She's eyeing 3 or 4 yellow rocks from sheet C to bring over.
Yeah, other than that, you don't have to do a lot. I mean, if you tried to play through the hole, you just have to make sure you really clunk one of the front ones.
Especially this front one, yeah.
Not do just a wide shot.
Should I go more?
There you go.
Still front? Yeah.
Takes only one flash stone. I still remember you, and it was against John Morris, and how you hooked a few behind a couple of misses.
A little smoke and mirrors.
Wow.
Same.
Was that what trials was that?
That was trials. 01, is it?
97, wasn't it? No.
How's the weight?
Or 2001.
2001.
2001.
Yep.
Hard.
Yep.
You do need mistakes.
Okay, whoa.
You do need people
Nice,
either to not try to take off front rocks or to make nose hits or flashes on them.
Same
Heather
thing,
Smith-Dacey does have to hope for that kind of mistake.
And it can happen with a big lead like this, and I think back to what Vic was just talking about, Joe Franz missed a peel by miscommunication. John put the ice down for normal. Joe said, let's throw peel. John didn't hear him, left the broom there. They threw a bullet down there, ticked it dead sideways behind one of our guards, and that's how it all got started. And it's easy with a big lead to go into neutral mentally.
Okay. The spot is really straight, obviously. Yeah. Whichever way you like. You'll make either one. Sorry? You'll make either one. Yeah.
Emma has a great way about her. I mentioned it earlier. She's very subtle with her suggestions and options that are presented, not sold to her skip. And one of the subtle things she does is what she just said. Either one, you'll make either one. It's not trying to take the negative thought and say, if you call that, you're not going to make it. So she's very good with the way she phrases her thoughts.
Yeah. If we roll for a corner, it doesn't matter. I'm still hitting her open one. Okay, let's do it.
Rachel Homan in her first here in 8.
Hard! Roll it.
Oh boy, the shooter will roll over as she drives it by, and now the shooter rolls.
I just need to see that one, that's all.
To cover the 4-foot.
Yeah. Okay. 10?
Yeah.
They could have let that curl up, Vic, and tried to get the back yellow, but it's dangerous. If you ever just miss it, leave your red one on top of the yellow. Heather hits and rolls or goes around, she's got 2 buried. So I don't think Ontario is too worried about giving up a 2 at this point.
I actually thought at some point in time here that Cinderella had a blue nose, but not today.
Just look at the difference in the kinds of shots they played and the way they played them. Rachel Homan at 55% on draws, you think, oh no, but the big hits have actually scored the points, and the opposite for Heather Smith-Dacey, who has had trouble with the hits, and that's how the 5 started.
10, real soft. Okay, whoa.
Mine's good.
Yep.
Whoa.
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 Going now.
Whoa.
Going to come up for her. It does. Look at that.
When Rachel played the shot she played, though, she knew something would be open. That one isn't. It is shot rock, but you don't worry about that. You hit the open one.
It's really, really thin. It's almost not there. Okay, as long as I get one. Yeah.
And I think there's a double by mistake here. They're not even going to try for it, which is a very smart move. Looking at the scoreboard, you miss the double wide, you give up 3. So they're going to hit this one. If they can sweep it at the end, make the double, great.
Yep. Hard. Hard. Okay, whoa. It's good, clean.
And good it is. Hits it right on the nose. And it'll be a draw for 2 for Nova Scotia.
It's good.
Still a bit hard.
Yeah, Rachel playing the scoreboard on the calls on her rocks and talking to the team about what will happen if a deuce is scored here.
Pretty good.
Full 12. Heather Smith-Dacey, final stone, looking for a couple.
Have a look. A little better than full 12.
Have a
Can't
look.
hurt it, you guys.
Yeah, I think so. Hard.
Make sure.
Hard.
Terry Link,
Good judge.
Bliss
Good
Comstock. And that's the 2 for Nova Scotia. And the team from the Mayflower here in 8. Get a little closer, but it's still Ontario. And they also have the last round. As we welcome you back to Charlottetown, the Civic Center. It's now 9-5. And once again, that's Ontario that does have the last rock.
Well, that score tells a lot, because when you talked about options at the 5th end break, there were options of how to go for it in the second half if you're Nova Scotia. Well, time is definitely running out.
Nice and long.
It's just full on, rocks out in front, and see how many mistakes you can get from this very good Ontario team.
Mine's good. Well, if you can.
Gotta go. Mine's good.
Okay, finish it now.
Yep. Just cross center.
Yep.
Cross center with it. Yep.
Go.
Yep. Nice shots,
When you look at that house, again, very impressive. Right on the button, Lisa has her rock.
Sure, it's top 12. Yeah.
Need some really tough guards here in the last half of the game.
So another wrap by Ontario.
Whoa.
Quite often you would think of teams throwing it through or ticking
7.
rocks, but
No, get off
this
it.
is where Rachel doesn't change.
Might be able to take
5,
one.
6,
7.
6.
We're there. It's,
Yeah.
it's got to curl. No.
We're coming down a little bit more than our
Still
first, but-
tapping it. Haley.
Footer's so heavy on the first one and not quite ideal, but fantastic spot for that. It makes it so difficult for Nova Scotia to punch those around without rolling open.
We can get it out there. I think we gotta go for weight.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, hard. Hard, guys.
Quick,
Hard.
drag it.
Hard. Hard, right
Keep
up.
it going, hurry.
Right up, right up, right up. Yep, keep her going.
Keep
Go,
going.
Go, go, go. Okay. Good sweeping.
A little line of rocks there, but now Ontario trying to clear up the front.
Whoa. Relax. Okay. High guard. High. Okay.
Bliss Comstock.
Nice and long.
Whoa. Still sliding. It's like lots.
2.
Whoa. Whoa. Don't need to finish it, right?
Okay.
It's a tough shot on such a good sliding surface. It's easy to throw this to the
Finish?
2
Yeah,
position.
a little bit. I think it's gonna anyways.
Yeah.
It's a nice,
Nice
shot,
Bliss. Same thing.
It's going to be very
Doesn't
frustrating
matter.
for Nova Scotia, Bliss and the rest of the team to look back on this game because they've actually made a lot of very nice shots. In this particular point of the game, it's hard, but still trying their best, getting the rocks in a best position they can, but at 5, that just
Yeah, and I was just
that's
going to
the
say,
problem.
I was just going to say to you, when you look at that
Clean.
5th there, the key shot for either Skip or either team was what?
Well, for Russ and I, it was on, I think it was about thirds rocks
Yes.
for Nova Scotia, thirds first, a choice that we didn't like, thirds second, a choice we didn't like, and then Heather not, I don't think maybe recognizing the Ontario's ability to blast and not seeing what could occur by playing the draw.
Yeah, Heather nearly made the most incredible shot ever, but it was all for naught. A great run back for Ontario, and to be fair too, the Nova Scotia missed 2 draws heavy on come-arounds and 1 little light that choked off a raise opportunity. So just
Pretty high.
a couple of
Your line's
bad
good.
execution
Line's
shots, just a little deep on a couple, a little light on a couple, and it doesn't
Still
take
gotta
much.
curl. Whoa.
This one needs to move a bit.
Yeah.
Problem here now is once Heather has a chance to get in there, because the red rocks were so well positioned
Okay. Okay. Very nice, Danielle.
by Lisa, it's going to set up a double.
Heel.
And that's why they do play
Wanna come
in,
this
not
way?
just throw through. They're
No,
trying to
like
make
the
it more
same. Okay.
difficult for the opposition when they're negotiating that 4-foot area.
And that's confidence in your front end, isn't it?
Definitely.
Those 2 rocks are back 4. It's a whole different ball game here.
Yep. Yeah, Allie. Allie. Shot.
Here it comes. They can't wait much longer.
Focus up here as much as you can see of it. Back 8, back line.
Very good chance there'll be a yellow double after this rock stops.
Back line.
Yep.
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa.
whoa. Whoa,
Whoa.
whoa. Close though.
No.
Yep.
No.
Whoa, whoa,
No.
whoa.
Get over. Very nice
Nice
shot.
shot.
Great shot.
Nice shot.
Perfect weight.
Perfect weight. Just 1. Heel. You don't want to try to get 2? I don't want you to stay as a guard. No, I would roll off. I don't think you can get it to go. Like, and roll out. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but if I just straight jam in, it's the same situation, no?
Okay. May as well try.
It's like 3/4.
Yeah. You gotta throw a lot of weight. Get them both. Okay. Okay, let's do it. I really want you to roll, though, number one. Yep.
There had to be an angle left here. The shot at the double.
No, never.
For Emma miscue.
Only problem was the conversation. I don't really think Rachel wanted to play it. So you had Emma, I think, thinking don't be narrow because she was concerned about rolling away.
Planted the seed. Great outcome, though. Rolls it open.
Yeah, house is open. It's terrific.
Wait. Freeze the one in the forefront. Freeze. Just cross it ahead. Okay.
What do you want on this side? If it's the same path as the others, it's pretty quick. Yeah. The guard path.
4.
Yeah.
T line.
95. Yeah.
95.
Skip stones here in the 9. Heather Smith-Dacey.
It's nice. Whoa for line. Whoa.
Line's
Got a
good.
curl.
Room. Whoa, let it work.
Whoa.
Should be okay.
It's got to move. Whoa,
Needs to move a little. Go if you have to. Line's good now.
Heather's
Line's
draw
good.
weight's been superb.
Yep. Hard.
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 Go, line three. Go.
Well, right down on top.
Good shot.
What's that?
The shot. Do we do that or we just do this? And then there's shot 1. Just set it over there. Yeah, just try to release this one. Almost like crotch.
You don't even need to release it, Em. She's got to hit it. And then we just hit them.
That's true. Let's do that. Forward? Okay. Forward weight.
Just a perfect angle by Heather Smith-Dacey. Just if that was straight on, there'd be an inside yellow double. You could try the thin double, but because there's a bit of an angle there, it's tough to remove the top yellow. So Ontario has no choice but to hit and try to flop slightly on top.
We can't.
We don't even have to release it. Like,
after mine, probably.
I don't think so. One maybe.
And the point was that with that rock on the button belonging to Ontario, Heather Smith-Dacey has to make the play and move things around. She can't just play another freeze.
Forward up! Yeah. Solid! Forward.
Kicked out.
No. Close? No, never. Close? Yep. Whoa. Whoa, we got to roll. Whoa. Good.
Well, Nova Scotia's making it interesting here. 4 points, but
I don't have anything else.
That didn't look like too spectacular a shot, but if that doesn't roll, if it stayed there, then Nova Scotia can come down this way because there's room, move the red back a little bit, get a bit of an angle like that, and it's tough to remove both yellows. Now that the red's kind of in the way, Linda, I think the best you could possibly do is get to the nose, which probably sets up a really easy double.
What's that? Back line or so?
That red one's not going far
No.
at that angle.
She's going to have a double.
It's understanding those angles, and you just heard it. Heather said she's going to have a double.
Okay, so 70, 80, 80 probably.
Back line.
Line's real good.
Whoa.
Needs to curl a bit. Whoa.
Whoa.
Gotta curl a lot. Get over. No. Get over. Get over.
Yep. Hard. Terry, roll that.
and sitting 2 for the moment.
And because of those angles, because that red rock was where I said it moved over, there was nothing else Heather could really do there. She comes to the nose, she sets up a nose double, she does what she did there, gives an inside double, and a chance for a big score here.
That last rock, I'm having a hard time getting it to finish.
Allie, take it.
Have to make sure the back one for sure, Linda. I think the only way you miss this is hitting the top yellow too thick.
Yep. Whoa. Hard! Hard!
1-2, there they go, backs it up, and there are 4 more. Rachel Homan in Ontario will move on to the semifinal. Very impressive Ontario team out of the Ottawa Curling Club.
I almost went top 10.
And now they'll challenge Saskatchewan best all week at 9-2 in Amber Holland. And again, we remind you of the earlier time today. The semifinal comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 Pacific. Saskatchewan against Ontario. And what a week it's been for Nova Scotia and Heather Smith-Dacey.